Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth. Happy New Year. Joining me today, we have Deb Krier, a seasoned entrepreneur, cancer advocate, and the visionary force behind Trying Not to Die Live. She combines her business acumen, lived experience, and certification as an integrative cancer coach to support high-performing professionals through one of life's most disruptive challenges. With more than 2 decades of experience in communications, marketing, and public relations, Deb has guided large corporations, small businesses, and nonprofits through impactful storytelling and strategic branding. But her most powerful work began after life threw her a curveball, or 3, following diagnoses of stage 4 triple positive breast cancer in 2015, basal cell carcinoma in 2021, and thyroid cancer in 2023. Deb transformed her personal journey into a mission to help others thrive. In 2022, she launched Trying Not to Die Live, a platform dedicated to empowering those impacted by cancer with community, resources, and real talk. Today, Deb serves as a strategic advisor to business owners and executives facing cancer, offering guidance to help them stay strong, lead effectively, and maintain clarity in both life and work during treatment and recovery. Thank you so much for being here. When many people take time off, grief, cancer, these things do not take time off, right?
They do not. And first of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on your program and the first one for the new year. So thank you so much.
Tell us more about, surviving not one, but 3 things that, knock most people down and out.
Well, for one thing, I ignore it as much as I can. But you can't really do that, right? It's about living through it and acknowledging this sucks. I mean, what I typically say is stuff that we can't do on the air. And I tell other people that, when they say, hey, I've got cancer, I drop the big F-bomb, right? And I tell people, I am not the person that's going to go, oh, Sam, you'll be just fine. No, I'm the one that gets mad. And I think that's a big part of how we deal with this, whether it's something simple. I mean, the one that sounds scary is the basal cell carcinoma. That's your garden mill run of the variety skin cancer, right? I am a redheaded, freckly kid that grew up in the mountains of Colorado. It's amazing I didn't get it till I was 60. I shouldn't say how old I am. But yeah, it's, I was thrown for a loop. I had not expected it, found it on my annual mammogram. And then things went downhill. I got complications that happen less than 1% of the time because I'm special. And the doctors were actually arguing over how fast I would die that day because I went into septic shock, and which is 75% of the time fatal. And I will have the results of that forever. That really did a number on me. But, the whole time, I just kept thinking, well, like even at that, when they were, the surgeon said, I'm not going to operate because she's going to be dead by midnight. And I'm like, excuse me, I get to vote. And I think that's the thing is we have to make sure we're advocating for ourselves, and if we can't, then we have to have somebody who can, and whether it's a spouse, a friend, loved one, whatever, and just make sure that we do that and then keep going. But give yourself the grace to acknowledge the bad times and live them, feel them, and then move on. But it's going to be bad. I mean, there are all sorts of things that go through your mind, and they're normal. And you should feel them, and it's okay to feel them. But that said, sometimes not everybody feels some of those emotions either, and that's okay too.
Or in that moment,
right?
These invisible things,
right?
Do not go according to the timelines the rest of the world thinks. And so then here I come in a year later, 8 months later, working with companies or schools because they're saying, well, that was X number of months ago.
Right.
Yes. Illness is does not go according to your schedule.
No.
And sleep or these things that you don't see suffer. We have these side effects that no one else knows about unless we tell you.
Right. And you do grieve once you get cancer. You grieve that your life has changed. I'm grieving that I have lost body parts. All sorts of things like that. But yeah, my life did change. And that is something that we need to acknowledge and feel, because it is very normal and very natural. But the funny thing is, people don't expect that from us. Well, no, you're done. You're finished with treatment. Aren't you all better now? I had somebody ask me, so I'm 10 years out from the main diagnosis, a little over 10 years. And I had somebody ask me not long ago, so are you done dealing with that cancer thing? And I kind of looked at him and I said, well, no, it'll eventually kill me. I mean, or a bus, right? I could get hit by a bus. But yeah, and part of that too is like people look at me, like how I am, and they say, well, you don't look sick. Or they make it positive, right? You look really great. And so you never know what's going on in somebody's brain and their body and all of those things as they're dealing with all of this.
And we advocates are not there in the hospitals working with doctors before recovery happens. So I could tell you, I have somebody recovering from a stroke. I have people who have dealt with IVF who will then deal with grief, depression, major emotional issues because no one prepared them for.
Right. Well, and like with any type of grief, it sneaks up on you at weird times. And it can be like, maybe I'm getting ready to get dressed for something big and fancy. Well, I had a double mastectomy and I did not have reconstructive surgery. So, what I wear is going to look different than other people. Now, I do have prosthetics, and they are, of course, because I'm me, they're named. They're Lucy and Ethel, right? Because you got to have a sense of humor with all of this. But yeah, to know that I can't wear some of the things that other people would wear, it does. It just kind of sneaks up on you on occasion.
Working with leaders. Right? So people going through this need support, but I'm fascinated, right? The leaders need to be prepared as well. Help me understand what you are working and doing.
These are my people, right? I'm a marketing person and you're told pick a niche, right? And so the niche is that I work with other business owners. And so many times, it throws us no matter what. Even if you kind of know, maybe you have a family history, you found a lump, whatever. When you get told you have cancer, it throws you for a loop. But when you are running a business, whether it's you and you have 1,000 employees, your first thought is, I can't tell anybody because they're going to think that I can't do my job. I can't run my company. I'm weak, all of those various things. And of course, the exact opposite is true. But, it's very scary because we have all these responsibilities. And that's not to say that, everyone else doesn't have responsibility. They all do. But as a business owner, you're thinking I'm responsible for, my products, my services, for working with my clients. Maybe you do have employees, things like that. And so you really don't want to tell anyone that you've got this going on.
And at the same time, before we started to talk, live, we were talking about how acting like we're fine, saying we're fine when we are not, makes our healing take longer.
Right.
It's not healthy.
And it is not healthy. And people want to help for the most part. I mean, and I also know, my background is in corporate communications. And one of the things that I know is that we don't like a lack of information. We make it up, right? And so if you see, the director of your department, the business owner, whatever, looking a little rough, coming in late every day, whatever it is, we start making things up if they don't tell us. And we never make it up good, right? Maybe it's, drinking a bit. Yeah. Whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying you have to tell them everything, right? I'm pretty open with what I talk about, but I do that on purpose. Most people are not gonna, they're gonna watch the TMI. But if you tell people, I'm going through something health-wise, it's gonna be a little bit rough. I need your help. they will say, what can we do? And if they don't, you probably don't need to be around them.
We were talking about telling our best friends, telling our people, but we don't have to tell the cashier at Starbucks.
Right.
I can't still tell that person who asks that I'm fine. I might say I'm exhausted.
Right. Yeah. I tell people fine is one of those 4-letter words that starts with F. And usually I respond hunky-dory, right? Hunky-dory. And my doctors know if I don't say hunky-dory, there's a problem. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, we don't need to, be telling them the entire life story, but maybe it's a really good day. Okay, tell them you're having a really good day. And then ask them how their day's going, right? Because it's all about this community. And I don't care if they're just the barista at Starbucks. How are we building those connections? And it is okay to say, it's kind of a rough day, but boy, am I looking forward to that coffee.
What do you think about leaders preparing for people on their team, dealing with, does that come up in your work at all?
It does. There's obviously HR and legal issues, and you need to familiarize yourself with all of those things, and make sure that you're doing things right. From a business perspective, there are some things that you should be doing no matter what. Do you have a business continuity plan? Who signs your checks? Are you the only person in your company that can sign a check? Does somebody know who all of your clients are and how to reach them? There are just things that we should be doing no matter what. But then when we start preparing our team, this is, first of all, you're going to have to get used to that word delegate. All right. That's one of those really bad words. I have trouble with that. But more importantly, think about your employees, your staff, your consultants, whatever it is that you have, and you're going to trust them to do things, and you're going to empower them. And think how they're going to feel when you have done that, to say, you know what, Sam, I know that you've got this, and you can take care of this. If you have a question, feel free to come to me, but I know you've got it. That's just going to be a great way to be running your business.
And in order to heal ourselves when we're going through, right, we are so used to, if we're running businesses, if we're managing teams, doing so many things.
Oh, yeah, because nobody else can do it as good as we do. Right.
So do the doctors say, you have got to take care of yourself right now? You have to put less on your plate to get through this?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. It's funny. Earlier today, I was talking with someone about the fact that doctors are not really taught bedside manner anymore, right? They rely on a person like you, a person that is your job. All of those various things. They just go, hey, you've got this, you've got that. Now, I've been at this for over 10 years. So my doctors are going to talk to me a little bit differently than they do. But I tell people, here's the thing. It's like the airplane rule, right? You have to take care of yourself first before you put the oxygen mask on somebody else. And that's always the way it should be, right? I was talking with somebody who is in, going through a rough situation personally. And I said, are you taking care of yourself? Well, I did. And I said, no. You can't take care of anyone else until you take care of yourself. And, that's the thing, is we've got to remember that. And doctors and all of our medical teams should be checking that. They should be asking that, and I get it. They're really busy. Sometimes they're told you have 10 minutes per patient or whatever it is. But, or maybe it's, I'm seeing this person, I'm seeing them once. They're not like me, and they have long-term relationships with these people. But, it's still okay to say, how are you doing? How are you doing?
I have spent decades kicking down doors to work with, first responders, because,
right.
And many are receptive that we don't want to respond the wrong way aggressively. when something could be mental
Mhm.
illness.
Mhm.
How do we bridge that gap with doctors for
Mhm.
them to recognize we could have an advocate
Mhm.
or a mental health
Mhm.
professional in this room
Mhm.
with, it could
Mhm.
be just for, I
Right.
don't even mean simple
Mhm.
surgery, right?
Mhm.
We
Right.
don't know
Mhm.
who's going to have
Mhm.
what type of a
Mhm.
reaction
Mhm. Right.
after
Mhm.
surgery.
Mhm.
Medical illness, I
Mhm.
have someone coming on in a few weeks. What my
Mhm.
life looks like
Mhm.
after
Mhm.
illness.
Mhm. Right.
It is not up
Mhm.
to them to
Mhm.
decide who needs what,
Mhm.
but having
Mhm.
someone there in case
Yes. Mhm.
we see a
Mhm.
reaction right in
Mhm.
that moment.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, because they're concerned about what they are doing. Their area of focus is on that surgery, that treatment, that whatever. And and they all ask the questions, how are you doing? Do you feel safe at home? And we all go, yeah, yeah, whatever, right? Because I get that question every week. I go into the doctor every week and somebody asks that. And so, but a big part of it, they don't actually look at body language, things like that. Several years ago, I'm a klutz. I'm a big klutz. Long story short, was gardening, managed to break my nose with the handle, right? And it went right across my face, and it looked like I had been hit with a baseball bat. I mean, it was just, rush off to urgent care with my husband. 4 different people came into the exam room. How did you do this? And I knew exactly what they were asking, right? They were making sure that it had not been my husband. And at the time I thought, well, and luckily I was not my normal flip self. I responded nice, right? And but and but I did think, well, my husband's here in the room. But I knew what they were doing was they were watching. First of all, did he answer? Did I defer to him? Did I look to him? All of those things. And after the 4th person left, they went out and in the hall, and I heard them say, it's okay, she did this to herself. you know, but they were reading my body language. Now, I think urgent care, as you mentioned, emergency personnel, they're trained, hopefully, a little bit different. They look at the situation. So why shouldn't our primary care physicians, our specialists, why shouldn't they be doing that too?
And ask you to go to the bathroom when your
Mhm.
husband isn't there, and have a
Right.
certain,
Mhm.
even a
Mhm. Right.
simple
Mhm.
checklist from
Mhm.
us if we
Mhm.
can't be
Mhm.
there,
Right.
give
Mhm.
tools and
Mhm.
tips.
Mhm.
Because what if it was someone
Mhm.
younger
Mhm.
who had a different answer
Mhm.
but would never
Right.
give
Mhm.
body language
Mhm.
in the
Mhm.
presence of?
Right. Well, and if it has been a long-term issue, you respond differently, right? Because you're used to it. So you might not have the body language of, I am absolutely terrified. You might just have kind of this resigned body language. And so it's very important to ask those questions, to kind of keep probing, even if it seems like you're annoying them. I mean, they'll ask me, and I get it. Because like a lot of the questions I get at the oncologist office are, have I considered ending my life? Right? I mean, this is a nasty, ugly thing that we're dealing with. And and like I said, I know I don't give flip answers. I behave myself when I'm supposed to. But what if even if I just paused or didn't answer, do they know what that means?
And those are the script. Like when someone
Mhm.
comes to me and they're like,
Mhm.
they asked me that, they asked me,
Mhm.
how do you feel? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
there are some people
Mhm.
who will never
Mhm.
answer, know what to say or not
Right.
to say. And
Mhm.
it is going beyond
Mhm.
those questions. I have
Mhm.
someone who was on the wrong
Mhm.
medication, was miserable, was
Oh. Mhm.
seriously,
Mhm.
seriously
Mhm.
heading towards
Mhm.
possibly
Mhm.
danger, hurting
Mhm.
herself.
Mhm.
I knew it in
Mhm.
minutes.
Mhm.
They were
Mhm.
asking, "Are you taking your medication?
Mhm.
Are you having any of the side
Right.
effects?
Mhm.
Nausea?" Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
So all they were doing was
Mhm.
looking to address the
Mhm.
dose, and not
Mhm.
taking her off
Mhm.
of
Right.
something serious.
Right. Well, and we tend to trust those people in those white coats with all those initials after their name, right? And so when they tell us X, Y, Z, whatever, we believe them. And that's where it comes back to, as we were saying, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to say, well, wait a minute. What about now, folks? Couple things. Dr. Google is not your friend, but it can give you something. And folks, now I love AI. I use AI all the time. Be very careful in using it in something like this. You might put into your AI, I have this, what questions should I ask? But remember, it's going to give you all sides of the story. And so be very careful with using AI at this point in time. But yeah, ask those questions. Even if you think it's a stupid question. I was in, I go in every 3 weeks to my oncologist. I go to all my other I am at a doctor every week. And I happened to just tell my oncologist, I'm really tired. Right? I'm really tired. And she said, well, when was the last time we tested your B12? And I said, I was like, I don't know. You're the one that orders those tests, right? And they tested my B12 and then they called. When the oncologist calls, it's never good, right? And she called and she said, well, your B12 is 79. And I went, I had no idea. 79 out of what? And she said, we don't normally see it below 500. Oh, all righty then. And so I got to, and still get to have B12 shots. But, it was just kind of a flip thing that I told them, I'm really tired. But, that was really good that I did. And so, again, be your own advocate. And especially if you're not sleeping well, if you're very stressed, whether you're worried about your business, whatever it is, tell them, they're getting paid to listen to this. And if they aren't in the position to help you, then they will call in somebody like Sam. They will do what they need to. And if they don't, folks, they're not the right doctor.
And I was worried and concerned, and I study medication because I work with clients on it. But in no way did I say, let's do this. I said, let's call in somebody and get an expert opinion, right?
Yes.
We have somebody that's not doing what needs to be done. We can get second opinions in any field. I want to ask you, you just said I go to a doctor every week. You appear, right? I see someone who is very upbeat, positive. That doesn't mean I don't see what's going on the inside. Do you find a way to be positive, or are you, just showing up this way?
I'm one of those happy-go-lucky people. Now, I do have bad days, bad hours, whatever. I mean, as we're doing this live yesterday, we took down all of our Christmas decorations, and I hit the wall. And it was like, I'm sitting down, I'm done, and I need to just rest for a while. But I do try and be happy. I try and make them laugh. I try and make my medical team laugh. They got really, really hard jobs, right? In some cases, they're telling people they're dying, right? And so I try and make them laugh, but I also have to be realistic with them because they can't treat me if I'm, again, saying I'm fine, but I do try to stay upbeat. I just don't really show it when I'm not.
What are your outlets? How did you take care of you?
Part of it is, so the first big thing, get enough rest. I do have chronic pain now. That's kind of from a variety of things. So I nap. I tell people I've become a kindergartner. I have to nap. And so far I have not had graham crackers and milk. I don't know why I'm not, but we need graham crackers and milk after our naps. And I just take it easy. If I need to stop, I stop because I know if I don't, it's going to go downhill really fast. And so I do have to. Now, are there times where you push because something's going on? Sure. I like to take walks. We live off of this great trail. It's actually a 100-mile trail that's right behind the house. And so I like to get out, and fresh air and sunshine, folks, that's the cure-all for many things, including mental health. You get out and it kind of invigorates your soul. And if you can't walk, then sit somewhere and just, how many birds can I hear? Whatever it is. And, and do things like that. I read, just fun stuff. I watch a lot of TV. I watch TV that's going to make me laugh. I've stopped watching the icky crime things a lot because those just started giving me PTSD. But it's there. Do what makes you feel good.
It's so interesting that sentence, it isn't simple.
Mm-mm.
That is not a simple, but it
Right.
really is
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm.
If it relieves stress, if
Mm-hmm.
it feels good,
Mm-hmm.
that is a yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And maybe it's 10 minutes. I mean, I'm not saying take hours worth of breaks. Now, maybe you do, but yeah, take whatever you need and just, get that break. Talk to your friends, do whatever you need to do to make sure that your own health is okay. And now here's the big thing though. And Sam, I promise you, I'm not saying this just because I'm talking to you. To me, and I tell people this all the time, one of the most powerful, strongest things you can do is to say you need help. And whether that's a mental health counselor, maybe that's a minister, maybe that's whoever, it is one of the strongest things you can do to say, hey, I'm struggling. I need help.
Trying not to die live.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us.
So it's live. Trying not to die. Yep. And so that came about because we get so caught up in trying to not die, that we forget that we have to live our lives. And sometimes it's 5 hours, right? Sometimes it's 50 years, but how are we going to live in that time? I tell people, I don't want my headstone to say, I wish I would have. We're going to Alaska this year for the 3rd time because it's just cool, right? And many people, that's a lot of money. You really can't take it with you. And so how are we going to live our lives in whatever time we have? Many years ago, I worked for an oncologist. Over 30 years ago. Absolutely fabulous man. Yeah, I worked for an oncologist and for the American Cancer Society, so I knew just enough to be dangerous, right, when I was diagnosed. But he always said that getting through dealing with cancer, 99% of it is in your head. If you think you're going to live, you will live. If you think you're going to die, you're going to die. Now, you might still be alive for 10, 20 years, but if you were living like you were dying, who wants to do that, right? Let's enjoy the time that we have.
Majorly important. People do not realize that the thoughts that we think, the words that we say have that impact. Right. I didn't. And so catching myself, I'm human. I might say, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And then I'm like, oh, cancel. I am not, right? Like that matters. What is it? What type of a community is it? Can people just?
So we do have a Facebook community. It is a private group, and I only keep it as a private group to keep out the snake oil salesman. I've only had one person who was going to cure me in 10 years with a product they sold out of the trunk of their car. And I said, I don't think so. But it's a fun little Facebook group. I post inspirational messages there. I post fun things. I also post things like, what should you be asking your doctor? How are things that you can be helping your friend who's dealing with this? So we post things like that, but it's also a place for people to connect with others. Somebody told me one time when they were diagnosed, they had never felt so alone in their entire life. Broke your heart, right? And so and I know you're so much about building our communities. How can we help others? And I don't care if they're only people on Facebook that you've never ever met and you never will meet. They're a kindred soul. And so, join our Facebook group, even if you don't have cancer. We'd love to have you. And there is a link on the website, and the website is tryingnottodie.live. That's the URL. And so, join the group. You might find that you get inspiration from it. And we do try. I post Monday humorous jokes. We've got several people who are actual comedians who post things. But it's also a place for support.
You also have your own podcast, the Business Power Hour.
I do. And oh my gosh, I've been doing it a really long time. I'm getting ready to upload episode 1134. I know, isn't that wild?
That's
You can tell I like to talk, right? But I have very cool guests, and of course, we need you on as a guest. But yeah, it is the Business Power Hour, and it's a ton of fun. I have a lot of fun with my guests, and we do try and talk a little bit of business.
And that's on all podcast platforms. People can
Yep.
find that everywhere. You're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook. What
Yep.
have I not covered?
You got it. I mean, anybody who wants to find me, look for Deb Krier, Krier. I think there's only 3 of us in the entire world, and I should come up first in every search just because of 1,134 podcasts, right? But look for the red hair. You'll that's the key. And I am happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever.
What final thoughts do you want to leave people with?
You have to be your own advocate, and you have to build your own tribe. I tell people I am a warrior. I am dealing with this thing that's trying to kill me. So I am a warrior, but warriors are never alone. We have to have our tribes.
I'm so grateful to have connected with you and have you as a part of my tribe now.
Yes.
Thank you for making time. Everyone connect with Deb, tryingnottoDie.live. Amazing material, resources, and especially community. Happy New Year to you. Until next time, everyone, always be ruthless.
Thank you so much.